What he mentioned was that, just for an example, Daddy O'Daly was a bartender and he just knew how to talk and he was rhyming stuff when he's mixing drinks and mixing it with jazz. And somebody said you should be on the radio and they put him on the radio. I mean, that's how fast this stuff
Oh,
happens.
wait, Mike. Is that all he? Well, there's a lot more
Well,
to that
yeah,
story. Okay. I've learned some amazing things digging for the history. Okay, the two most amazing facts.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, chicagojazz.com, and welcome to Chicago Music Revealed. We are doing a special interview series here about this wonderful panel that's coming to the Cultural Center April 26th, Sunday from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., all part of the International Jazz Day that we're having here in Chicago. It is in Chicago, worldwide in Chicago, and one of the spearheads of this panel is somebody you guys probably know, not only because he is the program director and on-air personality at Sirius Jazz Radio, Real Jazz Radio, but also because he's from Chicago. You've seen him on WBEZ, WDCB, and a myriad of other spots, WNUA specifically as well. Mark Ruffin's joining us. Welcome to the show, Mark. Thanks for being on. And hey, this is an awesome idea to put this together, and I know you spearheaded it. So let's talk a little bit about this panel. It is entitled Our Jazz Life, a celebration of the history of jazz radio in Chicago. So let's just talk right off the bat. Obviously, you came up with the concept. I'm sure that there was probably not many people kicking this idea around. So I'm glad you did, and how important it is to talk about the history of this.
Well, Mike, first of all, thank you for having me, man. And I commend you for the great job you've done in the Chicago jazz community. Which is what this was all about for me, the Chicago jazz community. If you want to start at the very beginning, International Jazz Day, man, what an incredible event. I happen to have been the voice of God at the very first one at the United Nations.
Wow.
Which was an amazing event and opportunity. And I've been to many of them, been to the one in Havana, the one in St. Petersburg, Russia, the one in Morocco, oh my gosh, and the one at the White House. So I've been to a lot of them, okay? So I know how it works. I know what they do and what the International Jazz Day people do. They come in, man, and they concentrate on what they're doing. They try to get as many big name artists, international artists and local artists, got to have the local artists and mix them together. It's a big show, a big thing. And they try to create an umbrella and an engine for everybody in the community to be a part of, to try to create a wave. And as I was telling in a meeting with the city yesterday, I mean, people in Chicago are who are putting this together. Some of them can't see because they're in the forest. But actually, man, Chicago is doing a great job of spreading this event around, using International Jazz Day as a promotional tool to promote your event. Yeah. And I think the Chicago Jazz Alliance have done really well. So last year I was at the one in Abu Dhabi. It was, oh my gosh, all of the shows. I do hope as many people can come as possible. And I do love that they're really trying to make it easy for folks to come, but it's also on the internet. But last year, Abu Dhabi was so exciting. And at the end, they announced Chicago as the next city. Oh man, I remember being in the crowd. I was so, gosh, I mean, man, coming home, this event in Chicago. And it was, then there was the after party and late that night, and I had, oh man, I was working. I was doing the SiriusXM. Last year, we became the first station to play an International Day All-Star Global Concert on International Jazz Day, because at Abu Dhabi, it was like 4 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah,
right. Right. So I was actually at work for a while after the show. So afterwards, I came to this party. People were leaving. My wife was there, and she was sitting with Kurt and Kurt Elling. And I just thought, what could I do? And so that night I came in, I want the Jazz Institute to do something to remember the veterans of radio in Chicago. And it started that night. I thought that was something I could do for all the people whose shoulders I stand on, some of whom are still alive, like Richard Steele and Bert Burdine.
Yep.
And so I mean, from that day, I told Kurt, like, before we left Abu Dhabi, man, I want to do something with Chicago radio. So that's how it started, and that's how it evolved.
No, that's great. You know, I was just had a conversation with Richard Steele, and you know, he reminded me he actually knew Daddy O'Daly. I mean, that's one
Oh
of the
yeah.
legends, man. You know,
Oh,
and the
oh,
stories he's talking about with that,
oh,
which I know you guys are gonna talk about at the panel.
oh.
But you know, what he mentioned was that, just for an example, Daddy O'Daly was a bartender, and he just knew how to talk, and he was rhyming stuff when he's mixing drinks and mixing it with jazz. And somebody said you should be on the radio, and they put him on the radio. I mean, that's how fast this stuff
Oh,
happens.
wait, Mike. Is that all he? Well, there's a lot more
Well,
to
yeah,
that story. Okay. I've learned some amazing things digging for the history. Okay, the two most amazing facts. That guy who walked in with the rhyming DJ,
yeah,
that was Dave Garroway of
that's
the
yeah,
Today Show. It was Dave Garroway.
yeah.
And Daddy O, I can't remember. I got to find out which station it was, either WAIT or WMAQ, I think. So Daddy O'Daly's first start was at WMAQ. That's mind blowing.
Yeah,
Okay.
unbelievable.
Here's another mind blowing thing I just found out. So Sid McCoy was on WCFL late nights, and he, of course, a lot of young folks know him. Well, younger. uh, know him as the voice of Soul Train, but back in the late 50s, early 60s, he was a legend in Chicago for jazz. He was on WCFL overnight when CFL decided to go pop. And the person who replaced him, and Mike, you might be too young for this name, but the person who replaced him was Larry Lujak.
Oh, I
Do
remember
you know?
Larry Lujak. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, he became a big pop star, but he replaced Sid McCoy.
No,
And also, man, there's just so much history, and I'm just, I people people in jazz. I mean, we have an older audience, and Chicago has such a rich history. It's barren now,
yeah,
and I want folks to know what that history was. I give Mike, between 1980 and 2000, I've been blessed. I worked at 4 jazz radio
yeah,
stations
yeah.
in one city. You can't do that anymore.
No.
It's so. So that was the idea. I just wanted to let the history be known, and somewhere, I'm letting Jazz Institute do whatever they want with this because we need to know this.
Yeah. So what's the form? I mean, you guys are all going to be up on stage. There's like 6 or 7 of you panelists wise. You're going to be running the panel. I mean, this thing could go on for 6 hours if you start talking and telling stories. So how do you focus this thing down? I mean, I can't even imagine it.
Oh, Mike, so as I thought about it, I love my radio brethren, but they're, like people, they're different kind of people. But a lot of people in radio like to talk. It's part of the reason why they're in radio. Okay. So I know I have to control it. I also believe that the audience are going to have the best stories. They're going to have memories etched into their mind. I'm not going to say the best stories, but some really good stories. So I needed to control everything because I didn't want, and not not only control everything, but as someone told me, it could be some old men settling old
Yeah.
yes. So it's going to be, for lack of a better, who's the guy, mayor of Cincinnati, Jerry
Oh,
his
Jerry.
that.
Oh my God. Jerry Springer.
Yes, it's going to. My friend John Hill, who was at WBEE, WNIU, and
Yeah.
WNUA, he and I are going to tag team. He's gonna control things, hopefully on the stage, and I'll control things out in the audience. That's the plan.
You mentioned the radio too, and I mean, the Daddy O'Daly story amazes me because he got on the radio, he was on the radio, and now he's like, he was a bartender. He's somebody that's like a legend, and
Oh
if
man.
that person didn't put him on the radio, it would have never happened. And it's those stories that I love hearing about because you never know what you're going to do, who you're going to run into, how it's going to change your life and everybody else's lives.
Did Richard tell you that he set in that when Daddy O had contract issues, he would only let Richard Steele sit in for him.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I heard Richard Steele playing jazz
Oh, no.
before I knew the pop thing. This is the guy who sat in for Daddy-O.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I knew Richard Steele. Okay.
It's amazing to me. He started telling me some of this stuff, and I knew you could relate too, because you were on, to your point, you were on 4 different jazz radio stations in Chicago. Now, you're the program director at Real Jazz on XM radio. And the way the whole radio, format has changed. That's the beauty of Sirius too. I have Sirius. I love Sirius because there's no commercials. You're just playing, and you hear it, and you get into a flow. And the mixes that you guys play on that station, and also you have special programming and everything else around certain things. It's something that you can't do on commercial radio, I don't think, anymore, right?
Yeah, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And Mike, can I tell you another issue, man, nationwide, that really hurt us when public radio and community radio took away jazz and replaced it with talk. NPR, the biggest culprit, and they did it all at once. That took away the minor leagues for big city jazz broadcasting, because we used to have a pool of people. When I started my first job was BEZ in 1980, and the job I have now is program director of a jazz station. I would say in 1980 there might have been 200 of those jobs in North America.
Mm-hmm.
If there's 25 now, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So satellite radio has its plus and minuses. Of course, I love it. It has helped me develop a lot. And it puts jazz. We are the community for jazz in a lot of places, in like Macon, Georgia, or Anchorage, Alaska, or little towns that don't have jazz radio. On the other hand, man, and I see it clearly in some towns, especially as far as smooth jazz goes, we ruined or helped to hurt the local community, because the local radio station, if they had jazz, they lost out to us.
Yeah.
And that's in the small communities. We can never do damage in the big cities, I believe. Chicago. DCB is almost all that's left, right?
Right. That's it. Yeah. Because BEZ, they canceled all the jazz programming.
When everything went national, yes, it's horrible. And which leads me back to my problem. How am I going to present all this? I have all these people. My plan is to go chronologically. So that would leave somebody like Dan Bender, the current general manager, program director at DCB, and ironically, the guy who replaced me at WBEZ, that leaves him at the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. In fact, he is not even from Chicago, and so he has nothing to contribute before he got here. You know what I'm saying? Right. So also, man, we're going to go chronologically, but we're also going to dig into the ways jazz was broadcast in Chicago, which is we have a very few commercial stations. My big wow factor is Bert Burdine, who was the program director of WSDM, the all-women jazz station. Yeah. He hired Denai Alexander. He hired Yvonne Daniels. I expect, and if we start with Bert, I expect that's 15 minutes right there. What am I going to do, right? Okay, so there's commercial stations, not very many. WBEE, WNUA, WSDM, commercial stations. Yeah. There's, of course, public stations. We have many of those. Of course, brokered stations. Oh, man. There was a time WXXM, they had jazz morning, noon, and night. It was all brokered. You know what I mean? Yep. And there's satellite, and I'm forgetting what, public radio and community radio. So we're going to go with all forces. And what's funny, my friend Neil Tesser, he's been on all of them. He's been broken. He's been public. He community. He's done them all. Syndication right now.
Well, you guys had a show together on a brokered station, right? For a little while.
And not only that, syndication. We had a show called Listen Here. Yep. Okay, so we had a daily show brokered on a local AM station. I'm not going to remember the call letters. And every day, and it was very cool. And then, in fact, the guy, Rich Nelson is his name, he came to me because Neil and I, people thought Neil and I weren't friends. because Neil and I would argue in public, you know, and we loved each other, man. So one time this guy came to us and said, you know, you guys could be the Cisco and Ebert, you know, you guys, how would you like to do a show and argue on radio? I said, dude, you're crazy. He said, I'll pay you $800 a week. I said, oh, you're a genius.
Yeah, you're a very smart guy.
And that show, Listen Here, grew. At one point, we had something like 130 stations across the country.
Yeah.
So it was very unique, very. But like I said, Neil has done a lot. Also, Neil is not from Chicago. So Neil can only offer, I mean, he started WNUR, and then, man, he had a very cool show. He hates for me to say it, but when I was a teenager, I used to listen to Neil Tessie. He had a cool show on WNIB, I think they're 98.7. It was called Straight No Chaser.
That's right.
Him and Chuck Mitchell, man. Chuck Mitchell, who went on to become a VP at Verve and Columbia Records. Yeah. And so Neil has done it all, man. But Neil is not from Chicago. So Neil also cannot talk about anything Daddy O'Daly and all of that. So,
you know, that's the thing that, because I remember when I came back from music school, and I was in the 90s, early 90s, and, you know, I'm playing at night, so I get off a gig at 1. Larry Smith, WBEZ, man. And he would have guys coming in from the Jazz Showcase. Like, I remember Joey D going over there, DeFrancesco over there. Richard actually talked about how he had Ray Brown on there one night, you know, with George Harris. And I mean, it was like insane. But the younger generation, they have no concept that even happened. And that's really how I found a lot of musicians from New York, from Kansas City, from LA, whatever, that I didn't know about, because he would play these tunes on there, and that's how I knew about it. The internet wasn't happening, you know? And I think a lot of the younger generation, they don't understand any concept of that. They're like, what do you do? You were listening to the radio at 2 a.m? You heard, you know, whatever, Dexter Gordon doing, you know, live at the Village Vanguard. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what happened, you know? So it's interesting, right?
Yes, man. I tell you, I mean, there's so many radio stories. I tell you what people don't know, and what may be surprising to some folks, but I always say I got my master's in bebop from Joe Siegel, because when I was young, man, WBEZ during Charlie Parker month would give Joe Siegel 4 hours on Saturday afternoons. Every Saturday, dude, I listened every year. And like I said, that's where my master's in bebop come from, the radio, of all people, Joe Siegel, Indian jazz master and owner of the Jazz Showcase.
Right. I did his book, actually. I did his biography with him. So we put it out about a year before he died. It's right up here, actually. Right.
Dude, I know nothing about. I'm sorry. Show me the book, please.
Right up there. I'll send you a picture of it. I don't have any. We printed a limited edition, and you know, this is the classic Joe Siegel story, not to get sidetracked, but he didn't want to put it on Amazon. It was cash only at the Jazz Showcase is how he sold the book. I was like,
oh, now we can get to some Joe Siegel stories about cash, man. Okay. When I was young, first show I saw was Bobby Hutcherson. When I was young, man, Joe, someone told me just have the money. And on Rush Street, he had a place in the back by the bar where if the cops came, I could get out. Okay. As long as you had the money. And I remember Wayne Shorter, Thanksgiving, Wayne, the Joyrider tour, it was all electric band. The line was out the door, and Joe's telling all of them, what are you coming to hear this music for? As he was collecting every. I love it. Please,
classic, man.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody, I'm going to tell everybody here, it is Sunday, April 26th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Cultural Center, 78 East Washington, Our Jazz Life, a celebration of the history of jazz radio in Chicago. If you just listen to this, you know what this is going to be like. So if nothing else, you need to go and watch Mark try to rein in all the cats and make sure everybody stays in line.
So can we go over the folks so everybody knows?
100%. Yeah.
Everybody didn't get on the posters, but Bert Burdine, WSDM, WGCI, also an architect of the Columbia College broadcast curriculum. Okay, Bert Burdine, Neil Tesser, I mentioned. Bob Foskett. Bob Foskett was at WBEE. He's a hero of mine, and the South Side's got to be represented. I said Neil. Also, Barry Winograd. Barry Winograd and I started at BEZ together as board ops, or operation engineers, as we like to say. And he went on to stardom at WXRT. Okay,
Right.
that booth, yeah. And then Lofton Emaneri from WHPK, he was there forever. And I felt like I needed the South Side, because there were so many community stations playing jazz, not to mention WBEE. So I had to represent the South Side. And Dave Freeman represents the South Side a lot. And Dave Freeman at WXFM, man, WXFM was an amazing station to me. The way Dick Buckley was there at a time, Daddy-O, Count BJ, and they all came on the same, and they were all brokers. So yeah, and my partner John Hill, I think I hit. Oh, and Dan Bender, I think I hit everybody.
I think you got everybody, yeah, and of course Richard Steele, who we've been talking about too. So I mean, so I encourage everybody to get down there Sunday, April 26th, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's free. You roll right in. You can hear some incredible history, some incredible stories, and of course meet everybody.
And we got to do RSVP. RSVP is my website, markruffin.com/ourjazzlife. Our Jazz Life is kind of the title of the program. So markruffin.com/ourjazzlife. Also at chicago.jazzday.com, and just RSVP because it's free, and we expect people to show it. So
yeah. Well, and we'll link it all up down below too, and put it all over chicagojazz.com as always. Mark, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you taking some time. This is going to be incredible, man. And are you guys recording this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That the whole thing. I want the Jazz Institute to have it. So 100 years from now, whatever, excavate whatever. But this is what it was. At least something what it was like for when jazz was strong on the radio in Chicago.
Yeah, good. I'm glad it's being documented. Documenting history of this stuff is so key to the next generation. So, all right, man, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Thank you. Have a great time at the panel. And as I always tell everybody, all the information is at chicagojazz.com. Until someday, hopefully I will see somebody out on the scene.